We don't show prep. So, so he had no idea.
I just barely make it in.
I'm sure you can tell, but we don't show.
I mean, let's put the cards down on the table here.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy. Ha ha. It's a 6-Ring Kane show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vision, DJ break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. Real Portland live from the Hard Rock Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. We see the 6-Ring champs. It's more than a dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards, a hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad. The 6-Ring Kane show. The 6-Ring Kane show. The 6 Rings Kane show. You know.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the 6 Rings Kane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
Welcome back. Good morning. We good morning, good afternoon, and good night. We have the hey, listen, we got people that listen over in Kenya or Senegal, something like that, So
the F1 show is coming back, Chad. That was an F1 show reference.
You like that? You like what I did there, right? See?
The one dude in Kenya who's very angry with us for whatever reason.
Shout out to everybody who joins the show tonight. We appreciate it. We got the band back together tonight. Everybody is here. We're excited to talk spring football. We're excited to talk some wrestling. No, I'm just kidding. Well, maybe we'll talk a little wrestling. Who knows, right? Blue was at the state championships this past weekend, and this past week. And I got to give a shout out to listen, the Palmetto twins over there, Connor and Drake Bonnie. I got to give a shout out. They are, they're part of the familia now. My mom's boyfriend's kids. Two standout wrestlers. Two standout wrestlers. I know Drake lost his first match and he was really pissed, so he kicked everybody else's ass and ended up winning third. Which I think that had he won there, he might have had twin state champs for Palmetto there with the Bonnie brothers. So shout out to them. Shout out to my ex South Miami brethrens over there, the Moret family. Ryan Moret winning a state championship as well, and potentially coming over to play for the Hurricanes. We'll see. A lot of people rank him real high as an interior lineman. So we'll talk a little bit about recruiting for Ryan Brent and some of the other guys. Blue, I know, was also at the a week ago. So
a lot going on. And just before we start, a little technology, Vish, because I'm going to show you either I'm 5'4" or this kid's 7'3".
Wow, we're doing some early show and tell. Let me see this.
Oh wait, it's not picking up great.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do your thing here, Vish, on some real technology.
I mean, I can't do anything.
We can see that. We can
see the outline. We can see the outline. We can see a very tall shadow next to a shorter.
I can take this off. No,
that's not.
No. Oh, there you go.
Wait, hold still and see if we can get a focus. No, it's not. That's not doing it.
Wow, that's crazy.
So who's that guy? Who's that kid?
It was me and Moret.
Oh, that's Moret. Yeah, that's a big kid, man. So Coach Moret, it's funny.
Well, you can only dream about how big he is.
I know, right? Ryan Moret. So his father, Umberto, was actually my health. They had like a health class in high school. You had to take do CPR and all that stuff. He was my teacher back at South Miami Senior High. So I believe he's the principal over at Southridge now. So pretty cool. I got a lot of South Miami guys over at Southridge. I know Coach Pardo's over there.
Yeah,
as a wrestling coach, and a buddy of mine, one of my good friends, his brother. So my friend John Michael, his brother Danny Lopez is the girls basketball coach.
And they came within 2 points of winning.
That's what I heard. So he does a great job over there coaching that team. So shout out to Danny Lopez as well, who's the head women's head coach. Listen, if he's looking for a job as an assistant coach, maybe Coach Cullip over there for the women's team in Miami could keep an eye on Danny Lopez. He's still young. He's young. I think he just turned 30 years old, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow,
so
that is young.
Years old. So he's a young kid. He's passionate. He actually has some friends on the team. And if you've ever seen, and I know we'll talk about football in a second if anybody's there waiting for football. But if anybody's ever,
why would they be waiting for football? It's only the football show.
Yeah, right. If everybody's ever heard of the clothing brand, Don't Settle, Be Great, it's DSBG. That's his clothing brand as well. So you'll see some of the
Nice.
NBA players and WNBA players wearing his brand a lot. Also, I know that he's very tight with a lot of WNBA players. So shout out to Danny Lopez as well. I'll let him know that I call him Mao. So it's a long story. We've known that kid for over 30 years, so almost 30 years actually.
That Latin South Florida connection lives strong, man.
Ain't that the truth, man? Ain't that the truth? But nevertheless, we've got some football to talk about. But before we got some football to talk about, I know, Vish. Let's do it. Let's run the ad. And there it is. You Break Wheel Fix. So I got screamed at yesterday after the show for not sounding it correctly, for phonetically sounding it correctly. It's You Break Wheel Fix. Excuse me. Sheena and the rest of the clan over here for giving me a hard time. It's You Break Wheel Fix. Have you ever run over a pothole so hard your steering wheel shakes? Are you constantly losing air in your tires that you need to keep adding air? Chances are there's an issue with your wheels, and You Break Wheel Fix is your solution. You Break Wheel Fix is Miami's premier wheel repair and restoration company. With over 20 years of experience and located just in North Miami right there, You Break Wheel Fix offers quick repairs for damaged wheels, and in most cases can offer you free loaner wheels to help you stay on the road while they repair your damaged wheels. So if your wheels are looking weathered and it's time to freshen up your car, don't replace, refinish. Their in-house wheel refinishing solutions, such as powder coating, machining, and polishing, will give your car the new look it deserves. Contact Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or on all social media outlets at You Break Wheel Fix. That's the letter U, Break Wheel Fix. Mention 5 reasons and get 5.5% off your next repair. You Break Wheel Fix, 305-748-0112. Check them out. All right. So a lot of news, in the University of Miami, period. Not only football, basketball's got their new head coach, which I know Vish and the team are excited to talk about this week. I'm sure they've already talked about it ad nauseam.
Well, we got buckets on Friday this week, so we'll break down his press conference. But we've had a couple of shows since kind of we knew he was going to be.
We talked about it ad nauseum at this point, right? It feels like.
Yeah. Well, we'll break down the press conference and do all that stuff. So
very cool, very cool. We've got baseball tonight, and we've got the new season of Formula One of hitting the Apex coming up tomorrow night as well. Yeah. Evan, myself, Vish, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Apparently, he got me to do it. Evan got me to do it. I'll do the fantasy F1. It'll be fun. Why not? What the hell? I'm not going to take up too much of my time, right? As if I have any time to begin with. But moving right along. Spring football is underway. It is
9.5 minutes in. We got to football.
Nice. Wow, you did a good job, huh?
There it is. Right on topic.
Bryce, Mr. Blue Sir, what are your thoughts on Bryce Baker coming? Okay, we'll talk about recruiting in a second. Autism awareness, I love it. By the way, shout out to Autism Awareness for Life. Haven't seen you on the show in a minute, so we appreciate you coming on and giving us a shout out. But we'll talk about recruiting in a second. I want to get into some notes on spring football really quick. Blue, if you've been out to any of the practices, I'm not sure. I've been
not yet, but I will be in 2 weeks when they come back.
Okay, perfect. So
it was a quick week, and then now they're on break already. So strange.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is, and I was hearing, and a shout out to Flo and the Miami Flow team. I was hearing some of their show yesterday, And these are some important questions that we need to ask. And I think the most important thing is like how much stock you put into spring football, right? And I was interested to hear their answers because mine are totally different. I'm on the completely opposite side of how important spring football is. And I'll go first, but I want to get everybody's take on this because since I'm completely different than them, or than probably a lot of people, maybe some of you as well. To me, spring football, maybe 5 years ago, wasn't that important. Now I think it's more important than ever. I think spring football is huge right now. And it's not really because of the players that you have that are coming in that are developing and trying to get that chemistry with all the new guys, the freshmen. I'm not talking about the freshmen, but the transfer portal has made spring football, I think, that much more important because now you've got kids that are on your team that know, hey, they just brought in a quarterback who was, an All-American quarterback, played in the SEC. This is just a hypothetical, but obviously we're talking about Miami. Came in, Carson Beck. Obviously the backup quarterback here was Emory Williams, and now you're bringing in Luke Nichols. Excuse me, my goodness, Luke Nichols as well. So you're talking about a kid like Emory Williams who now is kind of stuck in that, situation where what do I do, right? Like I got to put some good tape out there. My last outing wasn't great. I got to really kick ass in spring football. I got to show what I'm made of, and then in the spring football game, I gotta show out because now I've got an opportunity to now enter the transfer portal after spring, and I've got to play well. I've got to put some good tape out there. I think that it applies to other positions as well, right? Like there's going to be some surprises, I'm sure, entering the transfer portal, but it's because you got to put good tape out there. You got to go out there. You got to have a good spring. You got to show that you've developed, that you've gained some weight, that you've gotten strong, yada yada. And none of that is more important now than ever because of what the transfer portal does. And the same applies for teams that Miami is looking at players on other teams as well, right? Like we talk about, hey, we may need a linebacker or two. We may need another offensive lineman or, something along the road to complement the guys that we have on the team now. I think right now spring football is really, really important, specifically for guys that are looking to potentially enter the transfer portal or guys that are looking to win a spot over when training camp starts. What are your take? Vish, I'll start off with you on that one. What's your take on how important spring football really is?
I think it's kind of a weird place. It's more like tryouts now than it used to be because I think the top players, you'll see a lot of them kind of sit out because they know their place. It's not really important for them. But as you said, Jess, with the roster churn and then another portal window after, those guys that are trying to earn spots, get onto the 2 deep, or alternatively impress other programs to potentially get an exit strategy. All of that is what plays out in spring because it's kind of weird because as you said, there's 2 weeks of or whatever, how many weeks it is now with the gap in the middle and all that stuff. But there's you play in the spring and then there's an opportunity to leave again. Mm-hmm. And that crystallizes everything and forces that, you got to earn your spot. You got to keep your spot, or you have an opportunity also to leave then, but then you need to have impressed someone else to actually have a place to go to. A lot of people, Blues talked about this a lot, enter the portal and then can't exit it because there's no options, right? So it's really important for those guys that are kind of on the edge. Like you mentioned the quarterbacks, like this is important for, if Emory Williams loses the backup job to Luke Nichols, he's probably gone. Like there's no reason for him to stick around and be third string. So that's an important battle. Even though we know who the starter is and he's not really, he's non-contact and not ready to throw yet, we know who's going to start next year. So to me, it's those down the depth chart battles, which used to almost not matter because everyone's going to be around and you can have a chance to win it back in the summer if you don't have a great spring. But now, you got to make decisions after spring ball. So to me, it's that, middle of the depth chart, you get into the 2 deep. Those battles are hugely important for these kids. And that's where I kind of focus in the spring. You kind of know who your top, like, it's not going to be a surprise that like Mark Fletcher is still good at football, right? I mean, I don't think that's really what I watch spring for, but there's a ton of depth at running back, but not a lot of action for some of these guys. Lyle obviously played some last year. Fletcher's played a ton. After that, it's, who's going to step up, who's going to, earn their way into, this is a time to do that. So that's where I kind of look down the depth chart after the ones come out and see, all right, now we're going to see something.
This is the time when we're most excited to see all the bench players, all the 2s and 3s and 4s, because those are the guys that could potentially, build the depth. And if God forbid someone gets hurt, you got to trust those guys to come in. Blue, your take on two-part question, actually. You see a lot, not a lot, but maybe there's some schools that are now going away from having a spring game because they're getting scared because of the transfer portal. I think that that's a bad decision for the school and for the players and for the kids, but some feel like it helps them out with
19 in total.
I'm at 19 schools?
Yep.
Jesus Christ. I know Texas is one of them, if I'm not mistaken.
Ohio State, Nebraska. I think USC, if I'm not mistaken, too.
A cheeky ass Nebraska started it.
So yeah. So okay. So I want to ask both of you, right? Because both of you, both
I mean, can't have a Nebraska discussion without DJ weighing in. So.
Yeah, no. Now you mentioned Nebraska, I got to ask you too, DJ. But what are your thoughts on that? And then just spring football as a whole. Is it something where it's you put a lot of stock into it, or not really? You're not really concerned about it either way.
I think I agree with Vish here in the sense that it's important for like the transfers and the freshmen and the newcomers. For the guys who already have their spots locked up, I don't really think it matters too much. And I think it's important for some of the guys on the bubble, like Vish alluded to get film and things like that. But at the same time, I don't really put a ton of stock into it. I put more stock into preseason camp and the practices in August. So while it's nice to get excited about the newcomers and the new players and things like that during spring ball, I don't really read too much into it.
Go ahead, Blue. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I kind of side on you, Jazz, because especially defensively, where you're one of the worst defenses in the conference last year, you got a whole bunch of new people. You got a new coordinator. You got a new secondary coach. You got a new linebacker coach. You got some really, really decent personnel. So I think this spring would be all about shoring up the defense and making sure that everybody's on the same page, because I think it's essential, only because of the fact that, and I understand what Vish and DJ are saying about, it's a formality, but is it really anymore? Because there's so many new faces, even those guys who are quote unquote etched in stone to be starting or in the mix, they still have to be acclimated to the to the rest of the team, and I think that there's chemistry is everything. I don't care what anybody wants to say. I mean, if you have talent, obviously chemistry will work itself out. But in Miami's case this year, I think defensively, it's almost essential for this to be just a very vital spring. Just because of where you were last year, the uncertainty of who's going to play anywhere other than the defensive line. Your linebacker play was terrible last year. So here you got it, and your secondary play was just as bad. So you have a lot of new faces, new coordinator. I have to disagree with the fact that I don't think it's important. It's really important, especially defensively, because a lot of questions to be answered. I mean, even offense. I mean, you talk about Carson back, then he's great, but he won't take a snap until August 31st. And, that's the thing that you got to also, and here's another thing. Everybody's so quick to push everybody out the door. What if that first snap or during the first game, whatever happened to him happens again? I mean, you got to be always aware. And so, no, I understand, I was always told if you talk about it, it ain't going to happen. So, but there's just, I still think, I even had an opportunity the other day. I was watching spring training baseball, and, here's the Red Sox are playing the Twins, and they're in the 6th inning, and there's still dudes in there, so, and then this is only midway through, and I'm not equating baseball to football.
I'll be at the game Wednesday at the Red Sox Twins game. I'll be at the Red Sox Twins game.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, so I was watching it, and I'm thinking, here it was the top of bottom of the fifth, and I'm looking at the lineups, and I said, wait a minute. 90% of these guys will start. And you just have to have everybody on the same page. I just think Miami, this is just like last year, Vish, we talked about how vital the spring was only because you had a new quarterback. And what did that quarterback do in that 3-4 week period? He put a stamp on how damn good he was going to be. Spring game, 440 yards, 5 touchdowns. Every scrimmage they had, he was tearing everybody apart. We got a chance to see Elijah Lofton play multiple positions. And that to me, I think is what spring football is all about. I mean, you get it. And then plus you lay a great groundwork for recruiting, because remember, if you look at a lot of these kids' visits, during the next month, three weeks, they're during practice sessions. And these guys are going to see on campus exactly how their position coaches will be working and who they're going to have to battle when they get here. And, I think spring is important. For a number of reasons, especially in the portal era. And, Danny, I don't really think it makes a difference with the game. It makes a difference monetarily with the game because with all the souvenirs and the food and everything, even if you're like Alabama and you let your fans in for free, you're still making millions on hot dogs and T-shirts and soda. So from a marketing standpoint, away from football, I think there's a lot of schools that their budgets are not real steady. So you're saying to me, Jesus Christ, they're throwing away 40,000 potential people that'll be there. See, in Miami's case, it's just a quaint little gathering. Same thing with a lot of schools. It's not going to hurt you in any way. They already know who they're looking at, and they'll run, I'm sure. They'll have a lot of guys that are going to be interchangeable. Listen, don't be surprised if you see Elijah Lofton doing a lot of different things in lieu of maybe a Lyles carrying the ball or a Mark Fletcher. He may just do it because everybody knows he's going to be the Swiss Army knife. He's going to be played everywhere. And no matter if you hide it now or hide it in the opening game, the dude's going to be a focal point of their offense. He just does too much. And but to answer your question, I really think that the spring for Miami, especially the way things ended defensively, the questions that have to be answered defensively, the new coaches on the defensive side of the ball, and then all the replacements you have to come up with offense. I mean, you lost potentially, a second-round offensive lineman. You have a guy who might be a receiver who might be taken third, fourth round, a tight end who very well might be taken in the third round based on needs. I mean, you lost some dudes. You lost the receivers. You lost some pretty good players. So I think I just talked myself into thinking spring is good on both sides.
That's all right. Listen, that's why we have that conversation, because it's important. You start to think of all the things. And
why not? And AJ Allen's at FIU, by the way.
I know. By the way, before we keep going, and I'm going to throw this to Vish in a second, but a shout out to a couple of former Hurricanes that just signed contracts today. Michael Jackson signed a 2-year deal with the Carolina Panthers. Some good money there. And Bubba Bolden, baby, is with the Minnesota Vikings signing a contract as well. So shout out to them because these contracts are absolutely.
Yeah, and over the weekend, Rousseau also got a big.
Yes.
A lot of money being thrown around.
It was $60 million, huh?
Yeah,
that's right.
I got to give him a call.
My goodness.
Give back to the homeland.
How you been?
What you want to call? What you want to call is his teammate who just got $250 million guaranteed.
I don't know that Josh Allen's going to donate money to the University of Miami, but
no, and he may not even do it to Wyoming.
But yeah, I think we could maybe get a little money from Rousseau here.
My
goodness, and it is great because of the fact that no one deserves him as much as he does. He's a great guy, and he's a heart. He's a heart and soul of that defense. And it's just
good for him. Good for him. They released Von Miller, so
Who?
They released Von Miller.
Yeah, come on, Von Miller's still collecting money from the Broncos.
Yeah, I think he'll be all right. I think he'll be all right. Speaking of the Broncos, the Dolphins signed Zach Wilson, so there goes that.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Anyways, yeah. So I kind of want to throw this back to you, Vish, because specifically the defense, right? You've got a new defensive coordinator. You got new position coaches everywhere you look, except for Jason Taylor, right? Jason Taylor's the mainstay there. Everybody else is new, but it looks like a lot of faces that know how to coach. And I know we've said this a lot. Hey, we got to find guys that can coach. We've got enough guys that can recruit. Obviously, we know JT can recruit a little bit. His coaching and development is good. I think it could be better, but I think that he's still learning some things as a coach. But look, a guy like Will Harris is obviously one of the guys that's more developmental than anything else. Heatherman, I mean, the defensive coordinator is obviously, a guy that can do a little bit of both. He can run that defense, and he can develop, and he can recruit a little bit. He's been able to recruit some really good linebackers and some DBs to that Minnesota program before. So I think the biggest thing for me there, Vish, in the spring is seeing who's going to step up, because you got Bain and you've got Mesidor and you got some of these other guys, but for the most part, that line with as much talent as it has, Justin Scott and Moton and all these big names and David Blay, you still have to figure out what combination works best there. You've got some guys like Booker Pickett, McConaughey, some of these other guys on the outside, Malik Bryan, and so on and so forth, that are gonna be fighting to get a spot and to start or to get significant playing time there. Same thing goes for that linebacker position. I think West and Popo, obviously, but the young guys, Kelly Wiley, Ezekiel Marceline, who we haven't really spoken about, but the kid has a high motor, right? A strong kid that's going to put some pressure on some of these guys and some of the other guys that are there now, and then the Hayden Lowe's that can play the. I mean, there's a lot of new faces, so there's a lot of opportunity for in the spring, and then of course the DB, we can go on and on and on. But is there anybody that kind of stands out to you, Vish, that maybe was here last year, was productive, or someone that is a newcomer, or someone that's kind of under the radar, someone that you're looking at to say, hey, I want to see if this kid steps up. I want to see what this kid does in the spring to help him elevate his game and potentially be that guy that now on the defense, people are saying, okay, this is a kid that's going to come in and do some things.
Yeah, for that, I would say Aguirre. He's flashed it, but kept getting injured. So he didn't get to that consistent playing time. Given our linebacker play last year, I think he would have played extensively if he didn't keep getting banged up when he did play. He looked really good. We keep saying they need more linebackers. They need more. That part of that's depth, but also, if he steps up and takes control of one of the starting linebacker spots, it solves a lot of problems. And in spurts, he's shown that ability. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy to really play an extended period of time. So he's what I'm looking at that could potentially just, in-house solidify our linebacking core, which I think is probably, on paper at least right now, our weakest defensive unit, just based on depth and kind of what we have coming back. But he can solve a lot of that. So that's who I'd look at defensively.
I just remember someone mentioned it. I was like, Jaden Alderman is still on this team. I didn't even realize that. I mean, I know he's a good piece as a depth, but yeah, you're definitely gonna have to rely on guys like Aguirre and Wes and some of those guys to be your frontline guys.
Yeah, and if depending on how they perform, we mentioned the importance of spring, and Blue talked about for some starters, especially defensively, it's important. Yeah. I would say this is one of those positions. I still think we'll dip back into the portal for at least some depth, but this will kind of give us a window into, are we looking for starters that are going to come in, in April and then start in August, or are we looking for?
Hey, we found it before, right? With David.
Yeah, you can do that, but it does focus what we're looking for. We're looking for depth pieces, maybe some, actually some Alderman types, guys that are solid that can give you some snaps, but that probably aren't slated to start for you, or are we trying to like actually? Okay, we need
Right.
starters. We don't have starting linebackers, right? So to me that's a key position just generally for that, because I think they will go back in the portal. We don't have, just numbers wise, I don't think we have enough linebackers.
Yeah, I agree. Same thing on offense. Is there anybody on offense that you're kind of thinking to yourself, hey, this is a kid that I need to see something out of, or this is a kid that I think can pop off this in the spring and really make a name for himself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what we do with Elijah Lofton. I know it's Blue's guy, just because it's fine to say he can play every position because he kind of can, but you can't play them all at once, and so you kind of do it to a certain extent. Need to settle him in there. Is he going to play more as a tight end or more, as an H-back type? Because that then dictates, who else might need to step up at the tight end position as well. So there's these cascading impacts to where he plays, and so I'm looking at him. I mean, he's going to start, he's going to play a ton, and he's going to be a weapon. But where you fit him in kind of then dictates a lot of the other who's lining up where and who's doing what. So I'm looking at him as well.
Yeah, I like that one. Blue, what are your thoughts on defense? The guy that you're looking for, or that you're looking at to make kind of a name for himself, or a guy that's already made a name for himself that you want to see more out of? Who's that guy for you?
On the defensive side of the ball?
Right, yeah.
What about Cam Pruitt?
Okay, nice.
That's
a position. Mention him, and he's a linebacker. Yeah.
Somebody like that I thought would be. I mean, he showed in a couple of the games he stepped up big time, made a lot of plays, and I think he's got an opportunity to be pretty special. Are you just doing defense, or are we going to do that? Are we going to move to offense too?
No, yeah, you can throw me an offensive name too. Vish threw me an offensive name. Who do you think on offense?
What about Ray? Isn't it about time?
That's an important one, because I've got two thoughts on him. If he blows up in the spring, he stays. If not, he goes. I think he enters the transfer portal. That's
Well, that's only because Malachi Tony's a beast.
Yes,
and they also still are toying with the idea of having somebody else step up, like the kid Dalen Upshaw, or somebody. But to me, I think now, I was going to say Malachi Tony, but
that's too easy, right? It's too easy to say Malachi.
He's a cheat code. He's the cheat code.
How is that? Okay, so we're like now conditioned to what Blue is saying, because Blue has been talking about him, for months now, and saying like, this guy, he's different. That's not a cop out though. He's picking a true freshman to come in and I mean, come on. That's actually it's a little bit bold. It's just that Blue is taught. We all know like Blue's
we look at that.
No, we know when Blue talks about something like this, we know where this is eventually going to lead. But he still gets credit for it. I don't think we can shortchange it.
I don't want any credit. I just want him to do better than Johnson did as a kick returner, and I think he will.
I think Danny Gillette.
If he just takes a knee in the end zone, he will do better.
Not only that, if he can run 30 yards and not hit it into one of his own teammates' back,
I am so terrified. He's gonna run one back against us for SMU, and I'm just gonna I can't handle it.
Oh, swear to God,
it's my nightmare. It's my nightmare.
Oh,
you know what? I have the wheels, so maybe I could be better than.
Hey, who is our special teams guy, Barry?
We'll put a NOS kit on those wheels.
Just supercharge it. Yeah, I think it is Mario handles our special teams, right?
There'll be a pink slip in his goddamn locker.
What's the guy with the funky last name? Starts with a K or something, or Quali or Quali.
For where?
He was an NFL guy recently, and he helps with the special teams analyst or something like that. He helps Mario. I can't remember his last name.
I'll tell you what, Kermit Russell, there's a good question, because I think that Nikar and JoJo are they're right on the verge of becoming stars. And people who were at the first week of practice and watched, they said that they never thought that Nikar was as fast as he is. And he adds that dimension of separating.
He goes up and gets it, doesn't he?
Huh?
He can go up and get it. He's not that.
Well, and he's not afraid, to go across the middle
Right.
Jazz, and catch the ball like he showed a couple times last year. But yeah, that's a great point, Kermit, because I think that we have, it's. I still remember back in the day of Miami football when they were doing really well, and during the spring, you would walk behind the bench and look at the names of the people, and you go, "Oh my God, I forgot we had him," and it's returning in a lot of positions to that situation for Miami. And then I think Nye Carr and JoJo are two of probably the biggest reasons that where Miami's recruiting is. I mean, they're both gems. They're both Alabama players. They're both, Ohio State players. So, and that's where Miami's becoming. And just so I could answer two questions here. I saw Bryce Baker, and he throws the ball extremely well. Good fit for North Carolina. Good fit for what they got. Obviously everybody has everybody on their deal. And then the other question I was asked is about Flowers, who's got to make up his mind, obviously sooner or later. I think Florida has been right in there. Florida's done well. I can't, as much as all our fans hate to hear that, they've done well. But I think what Miami's done, and especially, putting themselves in a position where you have Joshua Moore, who I also heard is looking real good. They're not going to be afraid to use some of these younger kids.
I'll tell you what, Blue. Josh Moore is playing himself into that extra, that outside guy.
Right.
Potentially starter material with not moving Night Car inside. You got so many different options there with those guys, and then you still got Malachi
and Chance Robinson, who hasn't even.
Yeah.
You haven't really seen much of Chance Robinson. So, I mean, and as you said, I mean, you got a lot of guys in the H position. You got Malachi Tony, and you got Dylan Upshaw, you got Ray Joseph, and then, and I mean, running the ball, and I agree with Vish. I think Miami's going to add a couple more players, to the portal in the next phase of the portal because they have to, for depth wise. But I'm really, really sold on what Nye Carr brings to the table. I think once he and Josiah get on that field together, it's going to be interesting because both of them want to be the dude. Both of them want to be that guy. And, give me a dozen of those guys rather than a guy who's going to sit back and wait for somebody else to do it. I mean, I thought that Josiah last year could have been played more. I know he was banged up a little bit early on, but yeah, I'm interested also on how the depth at the offensive line will do. I mean, I've become a real big Markel Bell fan, kind of a bigger guy. But I also want to see what Samson Okunlola does because there's a guy really we haven't fully taken the wrapping off of him. We know Matthew McCoy also has worked extremely hard, gained weight. Ryan Rodriguez, probably the smartest of all offensive linemen, and he needs to get an opportunity to get in there. But, guys, this is a good conversation. It's not like I wonder who's going to do this. No, you got a bunch of guys that we're pointing out that are more than capable of jumping right in and making an impact. And that's the difference between where we were 2-3 years ago and where we are now.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question now. I'm going to bring up a guy, but I want to get Danny's take on this as well, who he thinks on defense and on offense. Just give us a couple names there. And then I'm going to throw something at you really quick to see what you think.
Okay, so on defense, he obviously played really well last year, but I want to see him in bigger leap from OJ Frederick. He started off really strong, and he continued, to play well throughout the course of the season. He had a few slip-ups, but by and large, he put together a solid season. Now, can he take that next step? And I think that's important. That's going to be important for the secondary because now we have, guys like Brantley and the kid from Wisconsin, Lucas, but can Frederick take that next lead? Because if he can, then that just further strengthens the secondary. And then Can I do 2 defense? Because I have 2
Sure,
defense.
You can do 10 of them if you
Do
want.
whatever you
DJ.
want, man. This is your show.
Booker Pickett is my other one. I want to see
I
what
like
he can
that.
do. I love him. I love the way he plays, just the way he's able to rush the passer. His moves, to swim to the outside and get to the quarterback. Just his instincts. I love the way he plays. So Frederick and Pickett are my 2 guys, and I think they have very, very bright futures.
I love Pickett's length. I think that's big for him. So
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I think Booker Pickett is one of the names that I'm looking at. But I mean on defense for me, I want to see Cole McConaughey take that next step.
That's your boy.
I think
That's your boy.
you know it is, right? He's like a prototypical edge guy.
Alabama slammer.
Should be able to just come off that line and just tear it up. And I know he needs to get a little bit stronger and work on his his stamina and whatnot. But I think that if he could progress and get a little bit better, and continue to work on his moves, his technique with JT and with Damian Lewis and the rest of that defense, I think that kid could come off the line and potentially in those rush packages move Mesidor inside and get, I mean, I know Baines lost like 10 pounds, he says in an interview, to try to get quicker, which is nice. But even in those big packages, when you want to use him inside, you can move, McConaughey outside as well. So I want to see him kind of do his thing. And I want to see Dylan. I'm going to pick 2 defense guys too. Dylan Day. I think Dylan Day is another guy that I want to see kind of put some pressure on some of the other guys at safety and corner, because I know he's versatile enough that he can do that. But on offense, for me, the guy for me on offense is you need that third running back. Is it going to be Gerard Pringle or is it going to be Hellcat? And Chris Humphrey-Wheatley is the guy that I really want to see step up. Someone mentioned it. I forgot who mentioned it recently, but you don't rush. You don't rush for over 2,000 yards in Dade County, and not do something productive in college, or Broward County, in South Florida, and not do something productive.
There's a difference, man. There's a difference.
What are you talking about? Like Beaumont, Texas, being in the north?
You're gonna start a holy war in South Florida after you pissed off the entire state of Texas. So just
man.
You're gonna force yourself into a cold climate soon.
I'm getting in trouble here, but excuse me. Yeah, you can't do that and not put up some numbers in college football. I expect him to be a part of that running back stable this season and get some time there as well, because you got Lyle and you got you got Fletcher, but you always need that number 3 and even that number 4, obviously. But I think that his production, his development is going to be important for that running.
Yeah, I agree. DJ, is that a door or a window right there?
Which one? Behind me?
The one off to that side, yeah.
That's a door, and then I have a sliding door back here too.
Look at you, man. Does that door go outside? So like during the show,
this one does, yeah. And it has a ramp. We built a ramp out there.
Nice.
So in case of a fire, I don't die, which is nice. Thanks, family.
Yeah.
Thanks, family.
Blue.
Just off base. I saw. I've been looking at it. I don't remember that.
Oh man, Blue. Before we get into some recruiting here, because I want to ask some questions about some guys. A guy that I've been hearing his name a little bit now, in his development is Juan Minaya. Apparently, he looks like the Incredible Hulk now. He looks to be challenging for that left guard position with McCoy and Ryan Rodriguez. Have you been able to kind of take a look at what he's looked like, or heard anything regarding his development?
I haven't. No, because I haven't been down there. So, I mean, I've heard, but I like to see for myself.
Yeah, I think that that's a guy I'm going to keep an eye on also during the spring to see how he develops and how he moves forward.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about some. I know you answered some recruiting questions already here, Blue, with Flowers and Bryce Baker. We got the commit on Jalen Waters that we didn't really speak about too much. We spoke a little bit about it because it happened in the middle of our show, right? Right, Fish? Was that the guy that committed? No,
Jalen Waters committed over the weekend. He decommitted from Florida, I believe, in the middle of our show, and then everyone kind of already knew where he was going at that point. So,
speaking of wrestling, Ben Cogden, another big time wrestling guy. In Ohio. Obviously, Ohio being a big wrestling state, I know he's one of the top wrestlers in the.
Yeah, he is. Although, you go on some of the Miami sites and they go, he looks soft. How can somebody look soft? You know what? Get his ass on the mat. We'll see how soft he is. He's freaking 6'7".
Yeah.
Ben Congdon is a very, very good athlete. He's quick. I was asking some people up in the state that wrestle, against him and some of the guys, and he said the kid he's a bear. He's just a bear. And I think he's going to be really, really good. I'm excited, to what he brings to the table. And as you mentioned before, Jalen Waters, a kid, he could cornerback, loose hips, 6'1", 170. He runs really well. He understands the game extremely well. He's, Miami's in good shape with a lot of those guys early on, with the 26 kid. How I feel about Jordan Campbell. You got to hang on to that guy to the bitter end.
I love him. Yep.
I know he mentioned recently that he was only going to take a visit to Miami in the spring, which was nice to hear. But another thing that committed, I don't think we spoke about, was Javier Mallory, the running back. I know that puts a little pressure on Derek Cooper as well, who's another kid that Miami really wants. What's your thoughts on Javier Mallory as a running back coming in next year?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's putting any pressure on Cooper. Cooper's a 1 in a million, buddy. I'm telling you, that's a kid that no matter if he and Mallory come in this class, all it'll do is enhance the program. Mallory, ever since he was in the 7th grade, he's been a freak. Great hips, quick, strong, matured, keeps getting better and better. Good kid too. He's that's the thing. The days of Miami getting the turds are over. They're getting good kids now. Then they got to.
Yeah.
They got to get those.
No more turds.
No, they can't get the turds because, and if they do, they'll find their way onto the portal pretty quickly. But I love him. Cooper to me is a generation.
If Mario's getting the turds, then he's going to find his way into the portal. So
no doubt.
But that's one thing we don't have to worry about with him.
No, that's definitely. And then Cooper's just he's a once in a generational guy. He's as I've said over and over again, he's John Beeson. That's who he is. If John Beeson reincarnated as a running back, could also knock your butt down in linebacker if needed, but he wants to play running back. And I think all you have to do is zip in the tape against St. Thomas last year in that game over at FIU and carried the ball, broke outside, went 76 yards, and no one even made up any ground on him. And that's a big ass back. He's and the crazy thing about recruiting for all the the people who follow Flo and everybody like that. Think about this. Derek Cooper wasn't even on the map a year ago. Not any stars, not anybody knew about him. So that just shows you how things, when, and that's because he wasn't being, highlighted at his previous school. He was being a backup. But I've known him since the Youth Football League where he was just a man. And the thing is when you have a supportive family, and he does, his mom's great. Those are the type of kids you want around. Those are the kids you want in your program. The Duke Johnson type of moms, the Marcus Van Dyke type of mom who will be at every game and supporting everybody and not just their own kid, that to me is the plus of having local kids. When you have parents who have been supporting their kids since they were 6 and they continue to, and, you go to a pregame, and you guys are at pregames a lot, and you see a lot of these parents that all, who were probably strangers at one point, met through the youth football leagues and met through high schools. And now even kids from outside the area, we talk about Vernell Brown, even though Vernell Brown was, from the, started out at Wildwood and then, went to Orlando, and his family's from Gainesville. because of the 7-on-7s and because of the camps. You look at some of these programs like Raw, or you look at South Florida Express. Those kids have players from all over the country. I mean, South Florida Express has a quarterback from California, and they have a defensive back from Texas, and the same thing with Raw. So that's my point. I mean, it's become like AAU basketball in a lot of ways back in the day, where it wasn't uncommon to see a Coach L or Coach K, watching these AAU games with all these kids who necessarily weren't from the same town, but they were playing on the same team. And that's what 7-on-7s kind of morphed into. And now when these kids, become teammates, like they know each other. They know each other from showcases. They know each other from, different events. And that's a great part of the recruiting now, is a lot of these kids know each other. It wasn't like, in the old days where they'd see each other for the first time and they go, hey, I'm better than that kid. How can he be a 6-star? It's not like that anymore. Now a lot of these kids see why these kids are rated so highly, because they see him in different venues. And, here's Jordan Campbell, perfect example. Jordan Campbell and Derek Cooper, as high school juniors, got an opportunity to play in the Under Armour game against all those studs that are on their way to, Michigan and Wisconsin and Notre Dame and Miami and places like that they have another year to go. And here is Jordan Campbell, who had 7 tackles in the game, or the kid Jabari Flowers, who had a pick, or the kid Burrows from who. It's so funny because I thought that kid, when I saw him at the Under Armour, I said, wow, he's only a junior. Just look at him. And now I read on I try not to get on those message boards. They depress me. But, he's too small. Too small? Freaking kid had 9 catches for 130 yards. Give me that tiny Todd any day.
Okay.
But yeah, it's that's what recruiting has come down. Go ahead.
Ryan Moret. We talked about him earlier in the show. Wrestling state champ in the heavyweight division down here in Florida. Big time offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman, can play guard and center. A lot of people
defense too.
A lot of people like him just as much as the kid Weiss up in North Florida. I know the Kane legacy had just committed to Clemson, but a lot of people like him just as much, if not maybe a little bit more, at that position and his ability as far as progression, throughout his career. I don't know. Some of those people know better than I do. Maybe they don't know anything at all. But a really good prospect in Ryan Moret. And I think that he could be a solid piece of this recruiting class. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no doubt. But I wouldn't just discard Ty Wise's son, because I thought he was technically.
I'm not discarding him, but
No, I'm just saying. And they also got Chance Barkley to Clemson, who's another really good one. But I'm just saying that somebody in Wise brings everything to the table. He's cock strong. He's a 2-time three-time now defending weightlifting champion. He never gave up a sack in 4 years, or now 3. So that's important. But the thing about Moret, he's more athletic. And the kid he's doing anything he can just to keep his weight at 290.
Wow.
He'd be at 320. That's why I said that, I know I had this discussion over the weekend where I said, there's no way he shouldn't be going in early to Miami. Oh, no, he wants to wrestle. I said, Coach, he's going to be like 318, 320. And that happened to Davin Joseph, who came out of Hallandale and got drafted by the Tampa Bay Bucks, where Jackie Shipp came down with Bob Stoops, and they promised, oh, yeah, you'll be wrestling for us. Yeah, well, 285 is the weight limit. He was 317 by the time he arrived there. And you just can't
right?
You can't stop a Moret at 6'4.5", 6'5", who's kind of thin now.
Yeah.
If my phone worked, then you would have seen. But but he I don't see how he's going to do it. I really don't. I mean, my advice, and his dad, if he's listening, it's my opinion. I just forego my senior year, get into Miami or wherever you're going to go in January, and let's call it a day, because you're not professional wrestling. You're going to be a professional football player. And he did what he had to do. Last year he got, he lost in the semis to the kid who won it. This year he finished it off against a kid that he had to wrestle like 5 times this year, including the last 3 weeks. And last week it was 2-1, a kid from South Dade. And it was like 5'9", 280. He's like a 2x4. Wow. But it is tough when you're 6'5" to wrestle a 5'9" guy. But last week Ryan told me when I saw him on Wednesday night, during the roll around at the arena, he said the last couple of times he's wrestled him, he took him down and then cut him loose. And he said, this time I'm not. He said, because when I cut him loose, he doesn't have to work. So he's fresh, the whole thing. So this way, if I keep him down, he's going to, and he did. He won it 5-2. So it's, there you go. Yeah. But there's a whole lot going on as time, as I think within when they get back to things next week, I'll try to get out there a day, or when they have a scrimmage, and then maybe you and I will meet out there, Jazz. And we'll,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there any names we should be on the lookout before we get to show and tell and all that?
Well, we got one more question in the chat too, but yeah, go ahead. Well, sort of kind of just revisiting the portal question. Rumors flying around.
What about a portal safety?
But I think we kind of talked about the linebacker. We didn't really talk about safety though, which is why I showed it. Danny, if you want to refer back, we talked about the portal and talked about linebacker, but we haven't talked about how comfortable you guys at safety.
What are you thinking, Blue? Are you hearing about any potential wide receiver portal?
No, not really. I leave that up to DJ. He scours that wire a lot.
DJ, you gotta let us know, man.
I haven't really heard anything in the portal about
I don't look at those message boards, so I have no idea.
It's been pretty quiet. I haven't really heard too many rumblings. I know, safety is probably an area that Miami could use some depth at, but I haven't heard any major rumblings in terms of potential safety targets right now. Don't forget, there's also the spring window, so we'll see. But right now, I haven't really heard much.
Yeah, I'm thinking Miami feels comfortable with Poiser and Zaquan, but but they could lose a guy, right? Maybe a guy like Marquette decides, hey, I want to go somewhere else. You never know.
That happens.
You got to get someone. I agree. We'll see what happens. I'm sure they're going to go out to someone on linebacker. So show and tell.
Very seldom do I do something over again, but I got text and I got message that 2 weeks ago I did this cover here, the 92, and a couple of people missed it. They said they love this team. All the line. They consider that one of the best linebacking cores ever.
Jesse Armstead, Michael Barrow, Darren Smith.
So they wanted to see that again, so I kind of brought that out to them, and then I don't normally do that, but then I got these are the ones with the football cards, which I always like. You got Lamar Thomas up there, and
who's that number 13 guy up there? Who is that?
That's Doretta. And then you got Lamar Thomas, you got Kevin Williams, you got Rusty Medeiros and Darren Smith. This is a good group right there.
Yeah, you think so? Yeah.
I don't normally do it, guys, but somebody had texted me last week and said, I missed it. Could you please? Obviously, there were some really good players on that 92 team, and there were. Let me see who's on the inside cover. Jesse Armstead, Stephen McGuire, Michael Barrow, Horace Copeland, and Ryan McNeil. So
unbelievable.
So this was worth doing it again.
Absolutely, I agree.
Definitely worth doing it again.
Because last week or 2 weeks ago when I did it, and I got off, somebody sent me a message on my Facebook, and they said a couple of us didn't see it, but we heard it was the 92 team, and that was a great team if you could put it back. And I said, well, I won't be here next week, but the week after.
Well, now's a good time to say you can rewatch this anytime
It's
on
on
YouTube.
YouTube. So they're gonna just
On
pull the link up.
YouTube, subscribe to
No, they did.
the podcast or any Apple
So they're
podcast.
watching again tonight. So
I'll say, the audio podcast, yes, please download, listen. Not the best for show and tell. So, but the YouTube link is there forever. But yeah, that was worth revisiting anyway. That team was
Absolutely, I agree.
That was a fun time.
Keep it locked here for more Canes football stuff. Within the next couple of weeks, we'll have some more information on spring football, recruiting news as always, show and tell as always at Blue. Of course, we've got Canes on deck.
Yeah, hit a little snag.
It's gonna be a shit show. So just get ready if you want to hear Jazz go off.
How's that baseball
and
team?
probably Vish.
It was all going well until Friday and Saturday, and then yeah.
I don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah. More coming up.
They
again.
lost 2 out of 3 the week before to Florida too, right?
Yeah, but losing at Florida and actually, run margin was pretty even over the weekend is not the same as getting blasted by Connecticut at home a couple of times.
Watch buckets. Watch buckets on Friday. Okay.
Yeah. Watch buckets for the positivity. Really? Have you seen our basketball?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh man. F1 show tomorrow though.
Yeah,
no one has lost yet. No one has lost yet. The season hasn't started, so that was a good thing to
got
to
a new coach. Got a new coach. So.
Yeah, no, and yeah. I mean, I think the women's program. We're pretty big fans of that coaching staff, so we think they'll get it kind of fixed up.
I'll tell you what. The one thing it is going to be is exciting this offseason, trying to see all the new players that come in, all the guys that leave, all the changes that are going to be made. It's exciting times.
Yeah, he'll do good. I think he'll do good. He's got a good reputation. He's been around, the program. A really good recruiting program for a long time. So I agree. Miami's on the way.
Yeah, the women have, I think, 5 players returning potentially and a top 10 recruiting class. So they're mostly kind of know what the teams look like. The men might not have a single player back.
That's probably good. That's
good. I mean, I sat through most of those games. So as Jazz said, that'll be a fun time on buckets, just tracking.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, if the Cavenders come back again, that's AARP stuff.
I mean, whoever
the Cavenders are gone. Yeah.
Whoever gets bothered by any of the men's basketball guys transferring out clearly did not watch this season. Like, how could you be upset? What do you want them to come back and repeat again what they did? Come on,
run it back.
Yeah, run it back. Right. Exactly. Anyways, we'll see you guys next Monday, but stay tuned. In about 5 minutes, we got Canes on deck for a little bit, and we'll see you guys there. Adios.
The 6 Rig Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rig Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rings Kane Show. You know.